penultimate day to the weekend. You're welcome to Enterprise Friday, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Ikwebike. Just like we often do, it's time for newspaper reviews, and right after that will be our main conversation also for today. But please do well to visit us. You can find us anytime that you want to. Enterprise Television, EnterpriseTVNews.com rather it is, and you can also like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV 7. With us today in the studio to do justice to all that, we have newspaper headlines, and if possible, it take us on to our main conversation for today is Barrister Vanso Feli, Barrister, Law Public Affairs Analyst, and Neka Madunagu, Journalist and Public Affairs Analyst. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for giving us your time. So let's quickly start off today with the big story we have just before we get into other stories that matter. And it's on the human rights lawyer, Femi Falana, SAN, who has criticized the Federal Capital Territory Minister, Wike, for gifting houses and cars to judges, calling the action inappropriate. Speaking on Channels Television's Politics today on Wednesday, Falana raised ethical and legal concerns about Wike's decision to provide such assets to members of the judiciary, arguing that it undermines the judicial independence and oversteps constitutional boundaries. The controversy began after Wike inaugurated the construction of 40 judges' quarters in Abuja's Katampi district in October, prompting widespread public condemnation. Gentlemen, let's take a look at this before we get into more interesting stories. I'd love to start with you, Barrister Vanso Feli. This is your area of forte. Wike is a live bencher. Yes. He understands the rules and regulations. He understands how to play the game. He understands everything that has to do with it. Do you think he is oblivious of some of these things, knowing that he has several court cases, and of course, given what Nigerians will call largesse?
Yes. Wike, first, is a lawyer, and that presumes that he should know the rules of professional conduct, which is our ethical code for the practice of law in Nigeria, both the bar and the bench. It is given that judges are supposed to be independent, and to propel the independence of judges, you need to pay them well, and you need to look into their welfare so that they have livable houses, habitable places wherein they can, do their jobs effectively. But the concern that Falana raised, Falana is saying, is very critical, because it does not lie in the power or the mouth of the minister of the FCT to interface with judges. It's wrong.
It's wrong.
Yes. It is the NJC that is the body or the machinery set up by law to interface with judges, look into their welfare, discipline them when necessary, suspend them when it is required, and take care of everything about them. That institution is responsible for that. And when we talk about the independence of the judiciary, whatever it is you think the judiciary is entitled to, or the judges are entitled to, must be passed through the NJC. So it is the NJC that will face them. When they did similar thing in Lagos State, we condemned it. When the governor of Lagos State bought SUVs, and judges came out to line up like primary school children to start, we condemned it and we said, this is wrong. A judge that collected SUV in that manner, do you expect him, to rule against Lagos State government if you have a case, an individual have a case with you? So, Falana is raising a very important issue so that our judiciary is not eroded. Falana had not said that Wike is bribing judges. Wike is blowing that out of proportion. We're not saying that they are collecting gratification. We're not calling it gratification or bribe, but we're saying that it influences their decisions and their perspective to issues. They are supposed to be above board. They are umpires. They are supposed to deliver judgment without fear or favor. But when the executive now gets to interface with them directly, they build houses for them, increase their salaries by 300%, all of a sudden overnight, it calls for question. The question, therefore, is that why should that happen when you know the law and you know what? Wike came up with a defense that it is FEC's decision. It is budgeted for. It is this, it is that. Nobody is questioning appropriation. Of course, appropriation is legal. FEC have to even sit on some of the issues not under appropriation, like award of contracts that is below above a threshold. A minister cannot, award a contract that is above a certain threshold. FEC must sit on and approve, which is normal. But we're saying that when you sit and approve, that contract to build those houses should not be under you.
Even as the minister of
you should channel it to the institution.
Okay.
That should have it done and hand it over. It is NJC that will hand it over to judges, not the executive. So that is where Falana is coming from. And that is wrong. If you continue like that, that is why that argument that people have that the judiciary was responsible for the emergence of this government. When people argue that, when people say that, I don't argue with them because of things like this.
So you believe it's true?
And it's wrong. Yes.
Okay, fine. Emeka, the judiciary and the executive are inappropriate assignments twins since this administration, and Wike is further proving that fact to be true in the eyes of Nigerians. With what is happening now, let's even get into the crux of the matter here. The land in question belongs to the Julius Berger, right? And it was taken away from them. The case is still in court and all. Now, speak to us on the implication of this in the eyes of Nigerians. Nigerians are not trusting the judiciary enough, and this is further exacerbating the problem. Speak to us on that.
It's unfortunate when we don't operate with a sense of history in this country. I remember years ago when Ben-Ga Daniel was governor of the state. There was a place in Shagamu GRA they call Asoludero quarters. That was a judge's quarters. But he was accused of appropriating the place. Massive place. I know where it is. Massive place. Now, Wike as a minister, exercising powers inherent in the Land Use Act, as amended, now took over the land from Julius Berger, claiming that it had not developed it over the past 50 years or so. Now, Julius Berger has not, Wike has not exhausted the processes as listed in the Land Use Act in taking over that place. Because there are steps. Notification, and a number of steps that you need to take. If you don't just go and grab somebody's land,
including compensation.
Even to I'm not talking about notification.
Yeah, the preliminaries.
You have to do all those things step by step. Otherwise, you can be sleeping on your bed one day, and government will just knock on your door. It's not even knock on the door. You just see a bulldozer start pulling down your house. That is why we have laws to guide the conduct of government officials and the citizens. That is one side of it. The other side of it is that Wike is an interested party in a number of cases before the judiciary. So he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. It doesn't matter. The judiciary is on first line charge. So what are you donating houses to them for? They don't need it.
And before now, is it possible that the judges didn't have any?
Even if the judges didn't have any, NJC is there now to administer. You have the judiciary has a bureaucracy now. Just like the National Assembly has a bureaucracy. Just like the executive has a bureaucracy. So it's the bureaucracy that takes care of all these things. Otherwise, what it means is that, Wike will now be sending people to buy lunch for judges. Or sending people to sweep the judges' quarters. You understand? So, to that extent, go to the other part of it. You have the Public Procurement Law of 2007. It's amended. Now, it has procedures for you to give out or award a contract. There must be a tender. And the tender must be published in Federal Tender Journal. And it must contain all the details. Then, it will go through the whole legal, gamut. Then you will now set up a bidding process. So whoever wins the bid through a strict bidding process, now the Bureau of Public Procurement will now take over. Because the Bureau of Public Procurement will inform the Federal Ministry of Finance to give cash backing. You understand? To give, it's not that Wike will put his hands in his pocket and go and give. There are processes. They now give cash backing. But you see, the thing in Nigeria, the other day, the EFCC chairman was saying that, was alleging that contractors and a number of contractors, were giving jobs to supply 9.0 gauge and they were supplying 6.0. And the question I asked was this: is the EFCC chairman not conversant with the law on public procurement? One, is the EFCC chairman not aware that there is a body called Licensed Electricity Contractors Association of Nigeria, LECAN, and is a body of electrical contractors that work with the federal government and the private sector? When I needed a contractor to install a transformer in my area where I live, then PHCN, that was in 2012, then PHCN told us, go to LECAN. No, I have friends outside who could, but they said, no, if you want this job certified, even though it's you people that are going to pay you, the contractor, but go through LECAN. We now went through LECAN. That's where we got the contractor who did everything to specification. PHCN worked with them, and then submitted the final report, you understand, on the project.
All right.
So, now, having done that, you will make sure that, the contracts are done to specification. But why do we have building collapse everywhere? Why do we have substandard materials everywhere? It is because people want to circumvent the process. That is one. Two, I also talk about issue of budget failures. The EFCC chairman was saying, in the past 15 to 20 years, with what budget performance have we recorded? We have recorded up to 30% budget performance. President Bola Tinubu has dropped is taking another budget against the National Assembly.
Yes.
When for the past 20 years, budget performance has been so dismal, 30%.
All right. So
I'm coming. Okay. And then you are now taking another budget. Whereas when you circumvent the due process, for me, one recommendation I've made to government time and again is this: the Bureau of Public Procurement should recommend to the Federal Ministry of Finance to prepare bonds, performance bonds. Don't just transfer money to the corporate account of a contractor. Prepare a performance bond, like some state, like Oyo State are doing. When you finish, and then the necessary officials in the Federal Ministry of Finance, in the Bureau of Public Procurement, and any other agencies, EFCC and other, they will inspect the project, even including civil society organizations like budget and tracker. They will inspect the project. When they look at the tenders and see that the technical specifications have been met, then you cannot be given a bond with which you can access payment. Otherwise, if you don't meet the technical specifications, sorry, you are going to forfeit that money and you will be prosecuted.
Very well said. But Advance Fellow, just before we move on to other stories, don't you think it's important at this time that the NJC would redeem itself, knowing that this is often a blow that they wouldn't want to see coming?
Yes. Well, the issues will be raised already. Issues have been raised already. And the NJC is being called to act, okay, because that responsibility originally by law is meant for it to discharge and not for the FCT minister to discharge on behalf of the judiciary. Okay, so that issue is what Falana is raising. It is for the NJC to do the needful now.
Yes, but sorry, just before you continue, don't you think the members of the NJC are equally part of those that might receive the housing from a weekend?
The CJN, yes, the CJN is the head of the NJC. And the CJN is a judge.
Yes.
The houses are meant for judges.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, but what I'm saying is that they should come out to apply the law. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
They should come out and apply the law. And applying the law is that it's not just the NJC, the head of the NJC is the CJN, but that's not the only
Who was the one that laid
generals of
who was the one that laid the foundation?
Attorney generals of all the states.
Yes.
Are members. You understand? Including all the other put together to make up this body. So that what Wike ought to have done is to take that responsibility and hand over to them and allow them to be the one whom all these judges will interface with. You understand? Because those who are judges in Court of Appeal, Supreme Courts, and the High Courts are people whom the NJC oversees.
Okay.
So the judge's subservience should be to the NJC and not to the FCT minister. Because you see, whichever way you look at it, the resources is going to the judiciary.
Yes.
But there's a way you go about the method. You make it look like the executive or the FCT minister is doing the judiciary a favor. That's how it looks like.
Definitely.
For you to go and be handing over keys. They are doing them a favor, which is wrong. It is their constitutional responsibility to have these facilities so that they can be effective in their job and be independent to the court. That's the responsibility of the NJC.
All right, so let's see how that goes. And then, of course, we promise to bring you up-to-date information on that particular matter. But quickly, let's move on to Vanguard for today. And we have the top strip here. Food. The federal government secures AFDB's $134 million loan for farmers. Crude NNPC Limited achieves 1.8 million barrels per day production targets. And we have on the bottom strip here, Free State bank accounts reverses ministries. And I think those are the big stories here. But let's take a look at the issue of in Edo State. I would love to start with you, Emeka Madunagu. Opebolo freezes state's bank accounts reverses ministry. So don't you think it's time for us to stop all of this bickering that we have between leaders when one takes over from another, instead of having a continuum? What we have is a reversal of what the other president has done, further complicating the issue. At the end of the day, 4 years is well spent and nothing is done. When would we get it right such that when people take over power, is it ever possible to forget about the past?
Politics all over the world is about bickering. It's about conflict. Otherwise, it won't be politics.
Really?
Yes, it won't be politics. Yes, you have to find a reason to justify to the electorate why you are better than your opponent. Now, I'm not talking
yes.
Both prior. You want to remain in power. You want to continue to enjoy the confidence of the electorate.
So how do you think freezing bank account and reversing ministries that have been created, jobs already have been employed, how do you think that will work?
There's a slang on the streets called initial gragra, IGG. Just come back, freeze account, this, that. All that is just showmanship. Because if you have given people irrevocable standing payment orders, when it's due, it has to be paid. If the state defaults, the state will incur liabilities. So all of those things, yes, maybe in fairness, maybe a precautionary measure, so that government, since power has been handed over to the administration, so that it can be sure of where each kobo is going through. If it's to that extent, I support what he's doing.
Okay.
Because you have revenue consultants. Now, the word on the streets in Edo State is that, members of APC want to take over revenue collection from those who enjoyed it under Obaseki. Even though some of them were APC, and then for ease of convenience, because Obaseki moved to PDP for a second term, they moved to PDP with him. But, they are neither PDP nor APC. They are just any government in power, IG. You understand? So, I think to that extent, there's nothing to really fear. But, like I say, this government official should always legal advice. Like what he said, that he will set up a panel of inquiry to look into what happened, why 14 lawmakers were excluded. I said it clearly on national television that look, he is going beyond his remit. That the separation of powers is for him to just, privately tell the speaker, please look into this matter. It's not his business going into that. But you see, this is a country where, people just want to, circumvent due process, just do things. And then later, when they run into a brick wall, they start seeking legal advice. And they have lawyers. They have a Ministry of Justice. They have, people in their parties who are even senior advocates. But in the rush to show people here that something is happening, I freeze accounts. I stop this. I change ministries. At the end of the day, you see, the African proverb said that when a masquerade starts dancing, before the real music comes, when it's time to dance, his legs will give way. So he's dancing too quickly. He needs to take it easy, step by step. You still have 4 years. If the tribunal up to the Supreme Court, if they don't throw him out.
But Sefasufeli, do you think Opebolo is acting alone in this particular matter, or do you think there are people who are, championing that particular cause at the background there?
Of course, there must be drum beaters now. People will beat drum, but the only thing, like he said, is like the proverbial antelope that jump and broke his leg when the dance itself has not even begun. Just like Tinubu, maybe it's an APC style thing. You have not seen the handover notes. You have not seen anything. You don't know whether it's necessary for you to freeze the account or not. You have gone to freeze the account. There's something I know. I have been a lawyer for so many years, 20 years plus now. And one thing I know about clients, we tell clients that have contract with government, there's a clause we normally put in every contract a client have with government. We used to say that proviso that in the event that there's a change of government, the incoming government, this contract shall subsist and its terms and conditions will endure irrespective of the change in government.
And that can be appealed.
So, no, you can't. You have what government into, you understand? We call it covering the field in law. So that's why when you read legislation, you see something like or, you understand? So we cover it up so that this kind of I freeze now. Those who have contracts that have that clause are not affected. Because all they need to do is to go to court and ask for a court order to vacate or freeze that on the basis of the contract. And by motion, just by motion, you get that done. And the state will be restrained.
Is it Ganishi order or what?
No, Ganishi has to judgment.
No, I'm looking at like what happened with was it current governor when he came in, and sacked local government chairman, froze their accounts, froze their salaries, and then eventually, or
they went to court. Yes, and they won.
And now got a Ganishi order. Yes. Everything to them.
Also, is a judgment enforcement procedure, Ganishi proceedings. When you have a judgment against an adverse party, you are not a judgment creditor. He is the judgment debtor. So the law is that the judgment creditor must reap the fruit of his labor. So what you would do now is to take the state account, file it with a Ganishi proceeding before a court, that you have a judgment against the state. And the court will grant the order nicer. The bank will come and show cause. First of all, the bank will look into the account and come to show cause why they should not transfer that money that belongs to their customer to the judgment creditor. Then once the bank have done that, the court will now make an order absolute. And order absolute now means that the bank is therefore mandated by a court order to transfer the judgment sum from the account of the judgment creditor, from the account of judgment debtor, to the account of the judgment creditor.
Yeah, but Barrister, don't you think with the intelligence of the Attorney General of every state, don't you know they might possibly find a lacuna in this?
No, an Attorney General did not see. An Attorney General don't have, in fact, it's helpless.
Yes.
It's helpless because it's mandated by law. All he will do is, when I file a Ganishi proceeding, he will file a defense, okay, and then go to court to argue. The adverse party will annex the judgment of the court and be praying the court that the court should make an order to preserve its own judgment So it's a judgment of the court. They are praying the court to preserve its own judgment so that the court is not rubbished. But what the court will do, once the judgment, there's no appeal against it, okay, and there's no, the court will grant it, then the bank will not be under pressure by court order. So the bank will not do the needful. That's how you get, because most time when you get a money judgment against a defendant, they'll tell you they don't have money. That's what they say, they don't have money. When you write a letter and attach judgment and send to them, they respond to it that due to financial they don't have. So what you need is to get their bank accounts, file a garnishing proceedings. You understand? The court will mandate the bank to bring all the account that this will have and the balance. They will present it before the court and show costs. From there, the money will be debited. First of all, by an order night side, all the account of the judgment debtor is frozen. They cannot have access to their account. I did that to an Indian company not too long ago. We pulled all the funds for our clients. The man was in India calling me and telling me that he's about to die. That he did intestine transplant, that he will soon die, that he's going to give me a very big case. I should help him. I said, well, you are a judgment debtor. You need to pay. So that is what it is.
All right, let's move on to the Guardian newspaper just before we close shop for this particular segment. And the big story here, oil-backed loans, OPEC quotas threaten federal government 47.9 trillion naira budget. And on the bottom strip here, we have NHRC. Let me get that again. NHRC. Okay, let me just take something else apart from that. Okay, so we have Lagos orders revocation of unoccupied housing units, and Atiku advises Tinubu to focus on governance, not 2027. Gentlemen, let's take a look at that. But just before we get into the Atiku issue, Emeka Madunagu, you're a real estate enthusiast, and this issue of Lagos ordering revocation of unoccupied housing unit, do you think it's a right step in the right direction? Let's not forget, lots of housing units that have been built around Lagos mostly are unoccupied. Why? Because those who end up getting them do not occupy them. So do you think this could be the right step in the right direction?
You have answered the question you asked.
Yes.
Those who get them do not occupy them. How do they get them? We have a housing deficit, running to millions. And yet, politicians, civil servants, highly paid civil servants and all that, get these allocations and they resell them at such exorbitant rate that you see a 2-bedroom flat will be going for that something million. If I had over 30 million, would I go and buy a 2-bedroom government?
It's supposed to be low cost.
You see what's happening in Korea now. The houses are collapsing, and that was the government scheme. But imagine someone who didn't buy from a government scheme at the time it was built, at the time that the Korean estate was built. Imagine someone who took the money and went into and built privately. By now, his or her investment would have, tripled, gone very far.
And maintenance would have been.
Would anybody be talking of if he has even sold the place? If you are to sell it today, will make money. But what can you sell in such a place? So that is why government has made those allocations, just a risk that any serious investor, real estate investor, will not want to take. What many people use those things for is that it's just a quick way to get loan.
Oh, really?
Bank. Yes, now government will give you paper. Now with it, you go to the bank. It will be easy to process a loan. That's all. But to say I'm going to hold on to this government high rise, for so long, I for one. Well, I'm not saying about other people, but I will not do it. Because this kind of a thing, look at it now, unoccupied. And government money has been committed into building these structures. Money that could have been lent to the real sector. You could have,
with the hope that in 40 years' time they would pay up.
But that should be the agenda now. It's a mortgage system. We are too impatient. We don't see. If government is committed to housing, and is able to entrench it, in a way, it will take care of some of these issues we have on the streets, where people are homeless and all over the place. Okay? So, Now people are able to pay overtime. The agenda is to provide shelter. It's not profit driven. If you want to do a profit driven real estate business, go into the private sector. Go and do your thing. If government is committing resources for housing, government should not allow the rich to come access it. The rich already can afford it, can afford to build their own. Because, see, it's low cost. What is the rich man? What's the rich man's business on low cost housing? It's misplaced priority. Then we allow this level, whatever civil servant to come, and then they will now tell you that they have slots, the governor have slots, the deputy governor have slots for his kindred, the traditional rulers have slots. These people are wealthy people already. So by the time we finish with all the elites, there will be nothing left for those whom this project was meant for. We'll now start to recycle ourselves again.
All right, so speak to us on, lastly, just before we leave, speak to us on Atiku advising Tinubu to focus on governance, not 2027. Let's not forget, in the northern part of Nigeria, there's this growing call, massive growing call for Atiku, and he's believing that it's possible he might take over in 2027. Do you think this advice is coming from an optimistic dream from Atiku?
No, but you see that Tinubu, the way he's running the country, as currently constituted, is his conduct and style of governance has opened up a very huge chance for Atiku's emergence, whether in the coming election or the next. You understand? Yes. Because now it now looks like this man whom everybody thought could change the course of things have lost it. He didn't even know where Nigeria is now in terms of the bearing to even say he can analyze and talk about where the country is going to. You understand? Now that opened up a lot of chances to a vocal Atiku who from Dubai or from whatsoever can get all the resources he needs to prosecute the primaries, to emerge, to upstage Tinubu, to buy votes, to buy INEC, and to do all sorts. All he needs is the support. So that credibility, that capacity is there. Not like he's going to do any better.
Really?
No. I mean, Atiku is not, you may end up regretting. You may end up saying that Tinubu will perform really better. I'm just telling you.
Atiku will bring people who are intelligent.
Because actually, Tinubu has actually created this vista, just like you did say, that no leader who comes in would love to do as he is currently doing. So don't you think that would give Atiku the opportunity of doing better?
You see, the problem we have in Nigeria is this. There is no clear articulation of economic policies. Are we running a communist state? Are we running a socialist state? Are we running a liberal state? Or are we running a capitalist state? Or are we running a mix of capitalism and socialism? Or are we running welfareism? They just jump this way. No, you can't. That's why you see the economy. You cannot make anything sensible. Look at the 47 trillion naira budget. Out of it, 13 trillion, which is almost 30%, is going to be borrowed. How do you run a system like that? It's almost more than a quarter of the budget now. 30%.
Yes,
more than a quarter of the budget will be borrowed. Now you have you are predicating your oil benchmark $75, whereas oil price is projected by the first week of December to go down to $68.68. Donald Trump was making so much noise during the campaign that we pump more oil, But the American oil producers are just look at this one. What really? Say? You know, because he said they will move up the oil production to $13 million. 13 million barrels per day. Saudi Arabia is looking at moving to 12 million barrels per day. Already, OPEC is supposed to lift its production quota cut, by December. But OPEC has said no. Let's see why. There was expectation that Israel was going to hit Iran's energy facilities. So Iran will be out of the picture. But for where? Israel didn't do that. Yes. So Iran is steadily pumping oil. So what it means is that in 2025 there will be an oversupply of 1 million barrels of crude already.
So which would affect Nigeria.
So which will bring the price down.
And that's where you anchor your project on your budget.
You anchor your budget on. How do you do that? You are not saying 2.06 million barrels per day. You have not even been able to sustain 1.6 million barrels per day. Yesterday, NNPC said they are raising to 1.8 million barrels per day. The question is this: ask yourself, when you remove the forward sales, remove all the loans and everything to affecting to different companies, how then the oil majors now remove their 40%? How many barrels do we have up to 1 million barrels remaining
To work with.
overall? Then when you now remove the loans and everything, do we have up to 400,000 or 300,000 barrels per day remaining for 200 million Nigerians? You know, when they say all this in 1.8 million, you know, it swells your head. You think there's something. Look, they have taken another loan from African Development Bank, still resource-based.
Yes.
So all of this possibly is a home run for Atiku. Don't you think so?
No, you see, Atiku's issues is there is this agreement that, okay, power should be in the south. And it actually should be in the southeast. But Tinubu, the famed master strategist, is missing one point. He's treating the southeast and the south-south as if they don't exist. But let me tell you something. He is going to learn the lesson of his life.
How?
When the north shows him that the north can take as much from you, but give much, much less to you, then he will learn the lesson of his life. Why? The southeast, you are treating them with disdain. Look at the south-south. You are treating them with disdain. You know? So who is left for you to work with? Nobody. The north will not work with you. You can throw in your money and everything. And look at the minors now. The same minors that they are alleging that their NIN shows some of them were born in 1992. And so on that basis, they got their voters' cards, right, to vote for you. But when they were charged to court, they became minors. Now, after the public outcry, which did not, the South helped to choreograph very well on behalf of the North. Now you gave them 100,000 each, and you gave them some other things. The North will continue to play all those games. That is what they know. The North, they are very good at playing power games. And if they are going to allow him to get a second term,
it will be difficult, isn't it?
So that's why you see Atiku is pushing. But within PDP, there is this school of thought that Atiku has tried. They should try somebody else.
Who else? Of course, it's not possible. But
no, it's not possible. Peter Obi said, there is still the talk. That's a lot. There is talk that he will return to PDP.
If he returns to PDP, will Atiku give him chance?
No, you know all these things are coaching.
Let's not forget, Wike is still there. Wike is still there.
Let me tell you, see Wike.
Wike is still PDP.
They see PDP, but you see Wike.
Yeah.
He can put fire in the entire system.
Well, but that is if he has the fire.
All right.
If Tinubu doesn't get tired of him by that time.
It's fire policy.
All right, so let's see how that works, though. This is just about the size of our package for this segment. We'd love to say thank you so much to Van Sufeli. Thank you, Meka Makabu. Thank you as always. And when we return, Nigeria needs a new constitution because the current 1999 constitution is so doomed. Not even the angel Gabriel can use it to save the day. Well, those are not my words, but you sure want to stick around to find out who said it and why. That in a bit, please don't go anywhere.